With me, I have Foreign Minister of Latvia and also the former Prime Minister and a member of the European Parliament, well-versed in European affairs, Christianis Karins, who's with me today. And we will be talking about the world around us. So, Excellency, let me start. We are living in a strangely divided and fragmented world. We can clearly see three cleavages emerge in this world, and I would like to prod you in all of these. The first one, of course, starts with the US-China tech rivalry, which kind of ended the whole thrust to globalization, and which today has the whole world talking about supply chain resilience. And Europe is in a peculiar position. What has Europe been doing, or what can it do to reduce its dependence on China, or is that even possible?
Well, Europe already has changed in the last 2 years dramatically in terms of its supply chains, specifically energy. So prior to Russia's outright war of aggression against Ukraine, which started 2 years ago almost to the day, Europe was very heavily dependent on Russian gas imports. Today, Europe is almost completely independent. My country is completely independent of these imports. Europe has found alternative routes. Instead of piped gas from Russia, now it's primarily liquefied natural gas, LNG, which is coming in. So Europe, in a very short amount of time, reduced this dependency on energy on a neighbor. Now, regarding China and what everyone is talking about, de-risking, I think this process will take a little more time. But it certainly is possible, and it makes sense for everyone to understand that in, shall we say, challenging times, one doesn't want to keep all of one's eggs in one basket. You want to spread them around.
So what are the areas of the world, when you start talking of supply chain resilience, which are the areas of the world which you think should be becoming hubs of the new manufacturing, if there is new manufacturing going to be taking place? And what can Europe do to better integrate these hubs into the European economy?
Well, one is, I think, a lot of manufacturing will be returning also to parts of Europe. But obviously, I'm sitting here in New Delhi, in India, and I think India has a very big role in the future as the big major power in the Indo-Pacific to take up, shall we say, a big role in these securing the supply chains. And then there's a secondary concern, of course, is how shipping will go on. We see that with conflicts, say now in the Middle East, the Red Sea is once again under threat. Shipping is now going all the way around the Horn of Africa. That increases lead time and increases costs. In the end, it will end up meaning consumer costs eventually will start to nudge up, if not go up stronger. So when everything's changing, one has to start looking at who are the friends one wants to work with. And I think that the future, already the European-Indian relationship is good. I notice a good number of my colleagues have been here this week at Raisina, and I think that that's a very clear signal that we have a very clear interest in strengthening the European-Indian relationship.
Well, this Raisina is especially become a forum for the Nordic-Baltic countries, and we're very glad to have so many representatives from that area here. When you talk of reshoring, nearshoring, how is Latvia positioned?
Well, Latvia is positioned also. We are developing our industry. We are quite interesting for many companies to set up production also in Latvia, because although we're a small country, less than 2 million people, being part of the European Union means our internal market is more than 400 million people in Europe, which is a quite wealthy market. So this is one of the ways that we're positioning ourselves as well. We are undergoing a process of, shall we say, smart industrialization.
And does India seem like a possible friend in this, where you are looking at Indian companies to come in and invest in Latvia?
Yes, I think actually both ways. Indian companies coming to invest in Latvia, we'd be interested in that. And we have a growing number now of Latvian companies that are successfully doing business in India. And I think it's only a matter of time until they start investing and also setting up production here in India.
And do your companies feel that India is doing enough to become an attractive destination for them?
I think that's. I'm a politician. You'd have to ask the companies, but the signals that we're getting here at Raisina is that India is very interested in becoming a country that is and will be doing enough. Yes.
So let me come to the second divide, and you actually started talking about that, which is something which we thought had disappeared, divided, gone long ago. That is the East-West divide, which has suddenly resurrected itself, and the Arctic bear is already, it seems that is what Europe feels. Take it in this bear hug and take it over, and the imperial ambitions come in. You are a linguist. You speak several languages by training, including Russian, I believe. But are we in a position where the two sides are no longer speaking the same language? Is there any possibility of this situation dissolving, improving?
Well, regarding Russia, Russia right now, with its current leadership, and even if Putin is replaced by someone else, from Latvia, our analysis, we don't see anything changing, because from the leadership down through the population, they are right now consumed with an ideology of expansion, an ideology of good old-fashioned or bad old-fashioned imperialism, which means they feel they have a right to claim any territory that they want. They're trying to claim that Ukraine does not even exist as a country, is not a separate language, is not a separate identity. The Ukrainians disagree with that, but they use that as a justification for taking over territory and attacking civilians in a most terrible way. And the fault, which has been for the past 20 years, is the false assumption that the Russians are thinking like us. And the real divide, I don't think, is north, south, or east and west. It's a values divide. So we have a good part of the world that believes in, say, international law. And of those that believe in upholding international law, a good number of us believe in democracy. So Europe, India, many other countries. And those of us that believe in upholding international law, and of course are also democracies, and we enjoy our freedom, it turns out that there are other forces in the world which are not only all autocratic in nature, but by their very nature, they do not believe in upholding international law as it now stands and are looking to overturn it. And that is, in effect, what Russia is doing in Europe. But we see the same tendencies elsewhere around the world. So if we come to the Indo-Pacific, we see North Korea doing its nuclear saber rattling, which could greatly unsettle the entire region, and not only the region, the entire world. And we also see China's ascendancy, also it's expanding its military, putting into question the right to freedom of the seas, difficulties there. So we see right now maybe unrelated movements against international law. But I think that we have, those of us that believe in international law, have every reason to work together. And Russia is one of those countries, unfortunately, which is trying to overturn international law. And instead of the rule of law, they want to go back to the rule of force. I'm big, so I can do what I want.
But often the charge which is raised against Europe and Western countries, including America, and we hear it more and more now, especially in the context of the third divide you mentioned, which is the divide between the North and the South. The North and the South today seem to be standing, on opposite sides on very, very major developments. For example, you start taking the problem in West Asia. You have a G20 going on. You have, the ICJ. There are 51 countries representing the ICJ against what is happening in Gaza. And the charge is that the West is using these international rules, international law, very selectively in certain situations. So how do we now, this divide which is going on increasing, and we hear ripples of it here as well, and even at the G20 it's very prominent. How is this divide to be addressed?
Well, I think first we need to acknowledge that actually what you're saying, I think, is true in some cases. So there does seem to sometimes be selectivity, which is wrong. So from Latvia's point of view, say if we look at the conflict in the Middle East, we have been a long time supporter of Israel. Israel's right to exist, right to defend itself. But at the same time, we have also been supporters of the Palestinians, the Palestinian Authority. And in the current conflict, we see no contradiction between still saying Israel has a right to exist and supporting Israel and insisting on a two-state solution, a state for the Palestinians as a solution to the human catastrophe which is unfolding in Gaza. So I think that for many countries, there has been a change of emphasis as this war has unfolded. And I understand that in many, outside of the region, many are looking at the West, so to speak, Europe, North America, and seeing certain inconsistencies. And I think this is what we need to address. But in terms of the North-South divide, again, yes, there is an uneven wealth distribution in the world in terms of where is manufacturing located, where is wealth being generated, how is trade being regulated, are the markets open, are they not open? I'm a great advocate of having more and more free trade agreements. So I think it's very important that, say, India and Europe sign one. I also think it's important that Europe and the United States could sign such an agreement. But trade agreements are one that I think that we really need to work on, but also, of course, being consistent in applying our values and applying international law in all cases.
So do you think there are certain countries which can function as bridge countries to be able to help get over some of these divides, to get the two sides kind of talking the same language, getting on the same page so that they have a reasonable conversation, understand each other's context?
Yes, of course. There always are bridge countries. So, for example, many European countries have a colonial past. They were colonial empires. But other European countries, such as mine, were not colonial empires, but were countries which were actually colonized and controlled by others. So, for example, a country such as mine can speak with many countries around the world, also who have a colonial past, who have been colonized. And we can understand each other because when you have been under someone else's thumb, so to speak, there's an inherent understanding. When I come here and I speak here with many at Raisina and India, where how your country is positioning itself, I think India is a natural bridge builder, and for history, for geography, for mentality, and for size, for all of the reasons, it's a natural magnet to help to bring people together. And I think it's dialogues such as this which are very necessary, where we not only get a chance to speak, but where we have, more importantly, a chance to listen to one another.
So my last question, which you actually said is it that India and Latvia can come together, collaborate, and create the opportunities to be building a better future for the world?
Well, I think this is what we must try to do. People like me who are politicians, we're given support by the electorate to do a job. And the question is, well, what do you do with your job? Do you just go and wake up in the morning and move some papers and then go back home? Or do you actually try to make a difference? And I think the goal is to try to make a difference. And I think our two countries, we're very different in many ways. We're very small, you're very large. But at the same time, India has a unique position to be a bridge builder. And actually, Latvia is one of the three Baltic countries that has shall we say, a different history from some of the larger European countries. We also have that ability. And if we put that synergy together between India and the Baltics, India and the Nordic-Baltics, actually all 8 of us work very, very closely together. It's a very integrated market. We have a very similar mentality. Working together with India, I think this is a very positive direction to look to.
So I think this Raisina should be remembered for being the Raisina which actually came to build this bridge between the Nordic-Baltic and India. And good luck to you. Thank you very much to join us at Raisina 2024 and for the Raisina Idea Spot.
Thank you very much.